lights we shine, inspiring the mass through motivation and elevation. Breaking down all classes, teaching reaching. We can show you never fall with a helping hand. We rise from the crawl, from the bottom to the top. Never be stopped. Say no to doubt, say no to fear. Pushing boundaries, making it clear. You've got the power, you're a pioneer. Unstoppable in control, have no fear. The dawn is finest, oh. We're on a mission, breaking molds, creating waves, no inhibition. We're the podcast that's here to inspire. With our words, we'll set your dreams on fire. The dawn is finest, we're
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Andre Goolsby back at you once again, representing Adonis International for the Adonis Finest segment. As most of you all know, I know some of the most extraordinary people on the planet. And I wanted to have this particular episode with Miss Gloria Wright here, my beautiful friend. She is a former educator, and she will tell you she's always an educator. So that's what prompted me to have this particular segment with all of the things that are going on in education right now. She and I have spoken before about this. I come here because she's one of my clients with Water for Life, and that's another story. You still love my water?
Yes, I do.
Yes. But we've talked about your background. We've talked a little bit about your background, and just tell us a little bit about, tell me again, how did it all begin? When did you know, that is your calling. That is your calling. But when did you know I want to be an educator?
Well, I grew up on a farm. My father owned a farm.
Where?
And in Millen, Georgia, Jenkins County.
Okay.
Very few people have ever heard of Millen, Georgia. I am number 7 of 8 siblings. And my early education began in a 2-room school with 2 potbelly stoves and 1 storage room. We had to make our own fires. The teachers did. Only 2 teachers. Grades 1 through 6 or 7. I think it was 7. And my auntie was an educator. And before I was old enough to go to public schools, she would take me to school with her. In fact, we had to walk about 5 miles to school. And I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, and most people have, I'll see you tomorrow if the sun's still shining and the creek don't rise.
The creek don't rise. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people really don't know what that analogy, what it means.
I know.
Well, on our way to school or just visiting out in the country, periodically you had to, in order to get to where you were going, if you were visiting friends or going to school, you had to cross over a creek. And the creek had a log across it, and you walked on the log. So during the summer or spring, it rained a lot, and the creek would overflow. So the water would cover the log over the creek, and you couldn't get to the other side. So that's why, if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, I'll see you tomorrow. So anyway, I would go to school with my auntie, and we had to walk across the creek. And one day, my auntie, who was a teacher, fell into the creek. She slipped off the log and fell into the creek. And but I just admired her, always admired my auntie. And then my grandfather was also a minister and an educator. So it's just a part of my upbringing. And I was born in the house that we live in now a lot of years ago, and the house is still there. So, and we went to, and back in the early 50s, everything was segregated. So the white folks would pass by us on the bus, and we had to walk. And so when I left the two-room school, we went to a school that was built out of logs, and we call it log cabin. So I think I was in either 5th or 6th grade when we went to the log cabin school. We had more teachers, but we still had the outdoor toilets, and of course no central heating. And every time I think about that, who I am today, and where the Lord has what He's done for me and my family. And if you would see me on the street or pass by me or wherever, or if you would interact with me wherever, you would never associate me with having attended school, elementary school, in a two-room school with 2 potbelly stoves, and we had an outdoor toilets, and we had to go out and get the firewood to burn in the stove, and then all of the you had 2 teachers, but all of us everybody first, third, whatever, we were all taught the same thing and the same. It kind of blows my mind when I think about it. When I think about me as an educator, and when I started teaching, I taught all 7th graders, all 8th graders, and 9th graders. But then in elementary school, in the country, we were all mixed in together, and we were taught at the same time. But yet, we made it. I graduated from high school, went on to college, got my master's degree. I own my own business, and it is. I always say, and this is what I told my son when he first became a principal, that I don't care where your children come from. They can be in the project, or they might be living under a bridge. God gave us all a brain, and we can use that brain. So it's going to be left up to you to develop, help them to become an independent learner. Insist that your teachers are so into their students and what they are doing that your students will go out and thirst for knowledge. And don't let anyone put a label on them, because they have a brain. So it's left up to you as the administrator to make sure your teachers come in every day willing and ready to teach every student, no matter what the background, no matter where they come from.
Where did you get that from?
Well, I guess from having taught, from teaching. If you do it in the right way and you understand your purpose and why you're there and how students learn, all of them are not going to learn at the same, rate. But you have to teach to every child. Some it takes a little longer to get to where they need to be. But then you keep working and you keep repeating until they master, because the goal is for the students to master every concept or everything that you teach. So you have to teach and you have to evaluate, you test them, and then you go back and retest again. But you see, we could do that when I first started teaching. But it changed. You have to be, every teacher has to be on the same page at the same time. We must move on to the next unit or whatever. And you're leaving so many students behind. There are some students that you really don't have to teach. They're going to get it. They can read it and understand it. There's some that you're going to have to repeat over and over again until they master the skills or concepts that you're teaching.
Did you taught here in Atlanta, though, or in Georgia?
I started out in 1963 in Americus, Georgia.
Americus, Georgia.
Yes, at a middle school.
Okay.
And I didn't have any students to teach when school opened because they were all in jail. Yes, that was during the civil rights initially, if they were marching and, protesting. And so I didn't have any students for 2 weeks. I just sat in the classroom.
So the students that should have been in your class,
They were in jail.
children?
Oh yeah. And or they were coming to, some were in jail.
Okay.
Some were not coming because they were, if you remember, who did you see marching? Did you see a lot of adults? In some situations, you didn't see a lot of adults.
No.
Because the adults had to work. They had to take care of their families.
Right.
So they couldn't be out there.
Right.
Because they would lose their jobs, because if the other race knew that they were out there, for the most part. Some people did, for the most part. So the students, the children, the students, junior high, high school students, were the ones that were doing the protesting.
That's right. As I'm looking back through pictures in my mind, I'm like, wow. Oh, I've never heard that.
Yes, you didn't have a lot of parents because they had families to take care of, and they were not self-employed. They were working for Mr. Tom.
I get it. So 2 weeks later, then the students started coming to you.
Yes.
And did you teach across the board, or did you concentrate on English, math, science? What?
I taught science because I majored in natural science with a minor in biology. However, I have an interesting teaching career. I had to take quite a bit of math in my major course of study. So I taught math. I taught science when I first started. I taught science, and in Americas and in Blackshear, Georgia. You've heard of Blackshear,
ma'am.
Georgia? Yes. I taught high school biology, physics, and science at the high school, Lee Street High School in Blackshear, Georgia. Okay. And after I left Blackshear and came up here, let's see, I left, no, I went to Wayne County. Yes, Wayne County. And went back to the middle school. So it was there where I started teaching math. There's always a shortage of math teachers and science teachers, but more of a shortage of math teachers than science teachers. So they would always hire me, look at my transcripts, so they would hire me to teach math. So the majority of my teaching career was in teaching math and not my major area of study.
Got it. So it had to be a little versatile. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Was it a difference or what was the difference in America's Wayne versus a Tucker High School or versus, and was it always high school? Did you go elementary or?
Not below 7th grade once I started middle grade. And well, when I was at Lee Street, I did do high school.
Okay.
But after leaving Lee Street and going to Wayne County, it was always middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah. And that's when I started teaching math. Yes.
Okay. So the difference between, say, rural and city?
Well, in the rural area, you didn't have as many. Let me go back, okay?
Explain.
I was in Wayne County for 10 years, 10 or 12 years, okay? And in the rural area, there's that, and you're in a predominantly Black situation. So educators were highly respected.
Mm-hmm.
You went to church with the parents. You saw them at the grocery store all the time. You go visit with them. You socialize, with them. So you really got to know the people in your community because you're all living it together.
Yes.
It
Makes all sense.
didn't matter, what your education level was or whatever. We were just all one big happy family.
Yes.
And as I can remember when I think back, growing up, that my teachers came to the house because they were friends of my parents and my grandparents. So we were just one great, big, happy family. You knew everyone, Well, when you come to the city, I came to DeKalb County in 1977. And again, DeKalb County was in transition. They were doing the M to M for students and M to M for teachers also. So again, when I applied for a position here in DeKalb County, and this is another long story, but I have to share it because, you can understand how I segmented into, where I am. Well, my husband was head basketball coach. In fact, back then they coached everything, but he was head basketball coach. But track, football, you did it all. So he was head basketball coach, and this was in the early 70s. And the school was integrated. We just had one big high school for black, whites, and that's when the white folks started building their private schools. Remember?
Yes.
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 So, because my husband had been teaching in Wayne County longer than initially when we integrated at the black school, all black, then he was head basketball coach.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Then we integrated.
Got it.
Okay. So the gentleman, white basketball coach, had been there longer. That was at the white school, had been there longer than he had. So then he was going to be the head basketball coach, and my husband was going to be his assistant. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, the white basketball coach was promoted to principalship. Okay. So it meant that my husband, they had to move him up as head basketball coach. Okay. It never ever happened in Wayne County. So anyway, he coached for I can't remember the number of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Had a good record, winning team. And this was at the end of the school year. They would gather all of us. I mean, the superintendent would meet with all of the teachers at one school, mm-hmm. the last day of school, and would hand out the contracts for the next year to the teachers. So my husband got his contract, and he looked at it, but we didn't discuss it until, we got home. And he said, Gloria, he said, I have been demoted. And he knew by his supplement, because, you get a supplement for coaching. So when he looked at his contract and saw that he had been demoted, he didn't know. No one had forewarned him. So they wanted him to be the assistant coach to a young man who had not ever had any coaching experience. Mm. So he said, I remember us sitting talking, and he said, Gloria, well, what am I going to do? I said, the hell, can I say it?
Tell me what you said.
I said, the hell you preach, you're going to fight this. You're not going to take this. No, you're not going to be someone's assistant. And you're going to teach him how to win. Said, no, you can't, you can't do it. That little supplement, we know how to survive off of your regular pay, but we're not going to accept it. So, we did get an attorney, because both of us were members of the local teachers association in the state and the national. So they provided us with counsel, with an attorney, and the attorney, in fact, was a classmate of ours at Savannah State in college. But anyway, the attorney wanted to make it a class action suit. So he talked to all of the teachers, and most of them were born in in Wayne County.
Mhm.
Okay. So when he talked to them, they all agreed that they would, go in and make it a class because there was a lot of segregation.
So, what year was this? Around what time period was that?
I'm trying to think. The schools integrated, I believe, in 71. So he had been coach for about 3 or 4 years.
That took so much courage because we're going through civil rights movement.
Yes.
We're going through segregation.
Yes.
Jim Crow laws
Yes.
and different things like that.
Yeah.
So you just decided to, we're just going to fight.
We're going to fight it. Yes.
So how did it turn out?
Well, it, pardon me, it wasn't easy because what I guess, and you understand how people think,
Yeah.
what they do to you, how they try to get to you. So, they came after me because they put pressure on me as a teacher, because if they felt like, if I would give up and leave, then my husband would leave too. It is really interesting. What happened during that time? They would always go to my friend, who was a teacher there. We adjoining rooms, and they always wanted to know, well, what's going on with Gloria and Leon,
Who wanted to know?
the white teachers. So my friend would tell them, if you want to know, you go ask Gloria or Leon. So she never would discuss anything, about what was going on, because for the most part we were very, because you can't talk. You just can't tell everybody what's going on and what you're doing. So the teacher that my son had, social studies, she taught in the gifted program. And by the way, he was one of the first Black students. At the first year the gifted program came out, he was enrolled in that in that program in 6th grade.
Nice.
So this was his 6th grade teacher, and she was very close friends to the superintendent. Okay, and we were over at the middle school. But anyway, so they were trying to find whatever they could on me, so to put pressure on me. So one day my principal showed up in the classroom. He did not ever observe that I had known any other teachers. Never observed me. So he shows up in my classroom, and he quietly comes in and he sits in the back of the room, or he sat in the back of the room. So I thought that was very strange, But as you said, Andre, the Lord works, and He's wonderful. That's all to say. So shortly after then, I don't know whether it was the same day or, during the week. Well, I had to go to because I was president of the local Association of Classroom Teachers. Okay, so I was planning to go to a convention, so I needed to talk with the principal about it. So anyway, I went to the office and told the secretary that I needed to talk with the principal. So I sat in the outer office waiting, but I could hear the conversation that he was having with this teacher. She was complaining about, I was teaching her daughter, and she was complaining about her daughter not understanding what I was teaching. I was teaching equations, simple equations. So anyway, I heard him say to her, he said, Mrs. Wright explained everything step by step. And I have no complaints about how she's teaching and what she's teaching. So I chipped.
Moonwalker.
I got up. So I said, because I didn't know what was going on. The parent had not ever complained to me that her child was not comprehending. So I just tipped out, and I said, "Thank you, Lord."
Mm.
You know.
Yes.
Otherwise, I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know what was going on.
And he would not have known if he had not taken it upon himself to come shadow you in a classroom.
In a classroom.
And that way he was able to assess your
my
teaching
ability.
Right.
Yeah.
And he needed that.
And he didn't ever come to me to tell me why.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
He came in to observe, and the teacher had complained. You know, but I heard it. I mean, he never came back. So, you know. But anyway, there was pressure put on. I mean, everything that if I was out for a couple of days or whatever, and because I always had allergies, so during the spring and fall, you know, and they would say, "Well, she's trying to get her beauty rest," right? Then they want to know, well, where do you get your clothes from? I said, well, I always find something on sale. I never buy anything at full cost price, which I don't, you know. So yeah, I can dress nice, but you know, off this salary, but I buy it cheap.
Love it.
And then I enrolled my daughter, wanted her to take Marcia to take ballet. Okay, all during this time. Okay, and they told me to bring her to the ballet class, and I took her to her first class, and I said, "Well, where are the other ballet students?" "Oh, we're going to teach her. Just she'd be alone. She will not be with the other." And then I told my husband, we got to get out of Dodge now. We got to leave Wayne County.
So was this this wasn't at the school?
No, it was private.
Private.
So school.
So this film became a county thing.
Yes.
So at that point you decided
So we got to move. Mm-hmm. So we moved here in 1977. Mm-hmm. And as I said, and DeKalb County then would not hire because DeKalb County was one of the highest paying counties.
Okay.
You know, in the U.S. Mm. So a lot of teachers were coming to DeKalb County, but you had to have a master's degree. So I had a master's degree, so it was easy. And then they needed science and math teachers, so it was easy for me to be hired. But they sent me to Tucker High School, which was 94%, about 94% white. Remember, and
remember
in 77.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I remember.
Yes, and it was not a good experience.
Tell me why.
Because of racism.
Tucker
Yes.
School.
Yeah.
94% white,
Uh-huh.
90% instructors,
Yes.
right? Pretty
Yes.
much.
Yes.
And I remember you said it was kind of unpleasant for you then.
It was. The students were not nice. Neither was the faculty, nor the parents. When I would come back, when we would come back from lunch, we had to stand in our door as students are coming back, going in to take their seats until, you had, about 3 minutes to get from the lunchroom to your classroom, between classes or whatever. So you had to stand outside to see the students come in. And when I was stepping back into the classroom, the students, and you know about spitballs.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Your board would be covered with spitballs. You got to go clean the spitballs off. And then everything that you did, you were challenged by the parents. If the parents were not, because they didn't think that you were qualified to teach in the first place.
Master's degree and all.
Yeah. So if you gave their child a B and they thought that he deserved an A, you had to prove yourself. And you always got these see me notes in your mailbox. In the teacher, workroom, you had mailbox, all your mail would go into your mailbox. So there was always these see me notes where the principal needed to talk to you, where a parent had called in and complained about something that you had done to their child or whatever. So you always had to be on guard. And I had a young lady who was my friend, taught social studies. And I did the math, okay? And she was going to law school.
Mm.
So whenever we got a see me note, if she would get a see me note, we would meet. And we would say, now, what is this? What could this possibly be about? So we would strategize. And we would be ready for whatever question that was asked. And even the administrator would actually change your grade, the grade that you had given the student.
Wow.
Yes.
How long did you teach that?
I was there 3 years, and I told my husband, if I'm going to continue in education, I can't stay here. I have to go back to the south end of the county to be with my people.
And when you did that work?
And this was during the time of, what year did the movie or the book Roots come out?
74, 70.
No, we came here in 77. So it was
After that?
It was
Oh, you said the book.
the book or the movie, the book and the movie. What year did the book come out?
77, 78. Was it?
That's right, 78. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I could not go see the movie. I tried reading the book. I said, because I would go and I would take my gun and I'd start shooting up everybody. That's,
You got a temper like that.
yeah, you're right. Doing that.
I remember that. I remember that time. But see, you and I had a different vantage point because you had come from. Did you saw racism
At its worst,
at its worst?
coming from Americas,
There,
and coming from Black Shear, and coming from Wayne County.
Wayne County. So the farm was that in Wayne County?
Our farm?
Yes.
No, Jenkins County.
Jenkins County. That's
Farm is in Jenkins County.
Let's go back there. We've missed some valuable nuggets there. You said you picked cotton.
Yes, all my life, from the time I was big enough to drag a sack. You know what a sack is?
Yes, ma'am. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I've seen them. And is the cotton? Was it hard to get the seed out and the?
No, you didn't get the seed out.
Okay.
you just got the
flat part.
you know how the bowl is. It opens up. It's like it's a little green. It's green and hard, and it dries out, and it opens. It just opens up. Like a pea opens up. It would open up, and then you will see that fluffy cotton hanging out the bowl. So you had to pick that cotton out of the bowl, and because at the end you have that little sticky stuff, so all your cuticles were just messed up, but that was a way of life. You had to pick cotton. I mean, that was your, So after, well, let's go back. Okay, but first, in the spring of the year, you plant the cotton. Okay, and the cotton comes up, and then you got to hoe it. You heard of hoeing cotton, haven't you?
I have.
So the hoeing is to thin it, because when you plant it, you plant the seeds very close in a row, and they're close together. So you have to hoe it or chop it to thin it out so that it will grow.
Okay.
If it's too thin, I mean, if it's thick, then it's not going to grow. It's going to crowd it out, So you want it to grow. So then you had to thin it out, and then you had to keep the weeds out. You had to chop the weeds out. So you got a hoe, and you go, and the rows for a mile long. I think sometimes if the grass if it rained a lot, and you got a lot of grass, it would take you a whole day to do one row, because I remember across directly, as I said, Highway 17, I divided our land, our property. Some was on this side of Highway 70, some was on the other side. So that huge field was most of the cultivatable land. So that's where my dad planted the cotton and the peanuts and the peas and the corn. Okay, so those rows would be long, and if there was a lot of grass, you could only do one row in a day. Okay, so that was the chopping of the cotton. Then around August, it was a time that you picked the cotton. That's when it would open up. Have you ever seen the blooms on the cotton bush?
As you were talking, I was like, I am so embarrassed. I have never even seen, you talking straight city boy here. I've never even seen.
Oh, they're beautiful blooms. Yes, purple and white, and then it blooms first. Then the blooms fall off, or blossoms, whatever the correct terminology. And then that bud, it's a big bud. It's like a big bud. Then it would open up, and then you got your pretty white cotton. Mm-hmm. So I think I missed something. But anyway, that's the way it looks.
Right.
So you got your sack dragging it, and you got to pick it. You got to fill it up. When you fill it up, there were sheets, brown burlap sheets. So once you got it full, you got to take it to that certain area. And everybody has his own sheet, So Daddy would weigh the cotton at the end of the day to see how much you weighed. So the purpose of that is that after you pick a bale, then he would take it to sell the bale of cotton down to the gin, and that's where they take the seeds out.
Okay.
And that's how you got your bale of cotton. It's pressed, into that pretty white cotton is pressed with all of the seeds out. Because you know what you do with the seeds, don't you?
No.
Y'all are sad.
Oh, Well, what do you do with the seeds? I've never.
Well, have you heard of cottonseed oil?
Yes. No.
They make cottonseed oil. They make oil out of the seeds.
Isn't that something?
And then your cotton all your clothes.
Yeah. So you speak about cotton, and again, it is so embarrassing that I haven't seen it. I haven't. And you talked about the beauty of cotton,
Yes.
and I've never heard that. I've never heard it mentioned in that light.
Yeah, because back when I was growing up, that was one of the major crops. In fact, that was your major crop.
So out of 200 acres, how much would you say was cotton?
I would say maybe about 2/3
Really?
was cotton. That was cotton was king back then. You heard the expression.
That's what I just got chills. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
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 Cotton was king.
So you can imagine seeing these fields, and when the cotton would open up when it's ready to pick, you just see all this beautiful white cotton.
Isn't that something?
And you know, and now when I go home, because now, I guess in the last maybe 15 or 20 years, maybe, a lot of the farmers in that area have gone back to cotton. So now you see field. Can you imagine driving down the highway, and on each side, all you see is white. It is a beautiful. And this cotton is being shipped all over. Everything that you buy that says cotton comes from.
So a stat that I heard was during Reconstruction, 90% of the world's cotton was being manufactured or was being picked or sourced from the South.
That's right.
90% of the
Mississippi, yes. Georgia, yes. Cotton. And back then, guess who was picking it? We were. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who helped your father?
What? Pick the cotton? His children. That was our livelihood. We had to do everything. We had to, and we had to pick the cotton. And you know, and you've heard about the boll weevils, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. There will be some years that I was telling you about that bud on the cotton bush. That boll weevil will go in and bow a hole in that bud, and and it will not open up. That bud would not open. And the farmers lost all of their crop.
Whoa.
Would not open.
So how did that affect, say, particularly your father? Because you're talking about 2/3 of yeah.
Yes.
So was there ever, I mean, did it all of the crop, or was it just
Well, it affect all of the crop, and not to mention if you had a drought or if it rained. So it was the Lord. You know, they had to pray a lot.
So there may have been some years where
There was.
no cotton.
That's right.
Really?
And then the other thing is this. Let's talk about the peas, the field peas. Okay, those peas you eat out the can.
Yes. Yes.
There would be some years. That was a second. Maybe corn was next, maybe peas next. Yeah. And my dad also grew winter wheat. And I'll get to that. Don't let me forget now.
Go ahead.
So with the peas, and you had the peas will get ready to pick after the cotton. You know, you didn't do both at the same time. Okay, you pick the cotton in August, and then later on, a little later on in the fall, you would have the peas. But anyway, we would pick the peas. And there again, you would do a ton of peas or whatever, because Daddy would weigh them. Everybody weighed, because if he had people working, well, he had to weigh them. You got to weigh them, because you got to know when you got a ton, when it's ready to take them in to sell them. So anyway, we would take, pick the peas. It would be time to go and sell them to the cannery, whatever. And he would take them up there on the back of the truck, pickup truck, and they would roll them across the scale, because they will weigh the truck with the peas on it and weigh it without, and that's how they got, the number of pounds. But anyway, the man at the cannery would come out and would reach down and get a handful of those peas, out one of those sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he would go and shell them. Okay. So when he would shell the peas, if there was a lot of worm holes or worms in the peas, couldn't sell them. You had to take them back and dump them to the hog.
Mm.
That was money. Gone. And the black farmer was at the mercy of the man who sold the fertilizer and the seeds and the equipment every year. So every year, you had to give the man who sold the equipment and the seeds and all, you had to give him your deed as collateral. Do you hear what I'm saying?
We talked about that, yes. Mm.
And then if you didn't make anything or where you could get out of debt from it, if you kept getting deeper and deeper in debt, well, then you lost your farm.
Did you ever see that?
Yes. And you just heard about that black farmer settlement suit.
I did.
Okay, you know what happened there. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, when you lost your crop, when bad weather, whatever, tornado, sometimes a tornado would come and strip all the leaves off the corn and off the cotton, to strip it. So then nothing is produced. Didn't grow. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm thinking they were, if I'm correct and I read correctly, they started, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was back in the 30s, I believe. Yeah. So the farmers could get low interest loans. And for certain things, they would just pay for if you lost, they would give you money for your loss based on how many acres you had planted in cotton or corn or peanuts or whatever, and how much it would sell for. Then they would pay you for your loss. They still do it. Still do it now. They didn't do that for the black farmers. They did not do it. So, but for the white farmers, they would get hundreds and thousands of dollars, and we always wondered, we all lived in the same community, had the same number of acreage, same style house, but let me tell you what they did for the house. Our house, when Daddy purchased a house, was a brand new house. Electricity, all of that. They put bathrooms in the whites. And right down the street, we're right down the street, they didn't put no bathrooms in ours. So, as a result of years and years of not giving the black farmers the loans, a lot of them lost their crops, and some kept it, you know. But the money that they paid out was not nearly, it was good, you know, praise the Lord. But for what you lost or suffered over that time was you know, bare whatever. So we you know, as I said, we corn, cucumbers for the market. My dad sold winter wheat. That he would take that to the market, and we didn't have to buy pretty much anything because the wheat, Daddy would take that in the spring of the year when it was time to cultivate it. So I knew about whole wheat flour as a child. So we had self-rising, we had plain in the pantry, and we had the whole, you know, we had everything. We had lard, because he would kill hogs in the coldest day in January. We had cows, you know, we had steaks, and, you know, my mother canned everything.
Sausages.
We had a smokehouse with hams and sausages, and, you know, we had
trees, your fruit trees.
Fruit trees, yeah.
Like how many different fruit trees are?
We had pears, we had figs, we had the peaches, we had plums. You know, the wild plums just, you know, just grew everywhere. So we were self-sufficient.
I was truly living off the land.
We lived off of the land.
True.
Yes.
So you were active in this, and you, if I heard you correctly, there was 8 children.
Mm-hmm.
So you lived, that was your lifestyle. I mean, so your day was spent
working. And we had split school year.
So how about when you came home from school?
When you tell you about that.
Okay.
I worked. You remember I told you my dad kept me humble?
Yeah.
I'm still humble from that experience?
Yes.
Okay. My coming up to my senior year in college.
Yes, ma'am.
I went to summer school because I transferred from Payne to Savannah State.
Okay.
After my freshman year. I didn't like Payne. So I transferred to Savannah State. So you lose hours when you transfer. So anyway, I went to summer school to make up, because I still wanted to graduate in '63. So I went to summer school, and summer school was out in August. So the cotton was right ready to be picked. So anyway, it was time to go to the field to pick the cotton. So everybody was, you know, had their sacks going to the field. And I wasn't going to go. So my mother said, I have to laugh every time
I got it.
So my mother said, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have your sack and go to the field? Because my mother didn't work. My mother had a crippling arthritis, so she was never able to praise the Lord, because she would have driven us. Daddy didn't put no pressure on us. But my mother was slave driver, but But you're not supposed to be laughing.
So,
So anyway, my mother said, well, why aren't you going to the field? I said, oh, I'm not picking anymore. I said, I'm a senior in college. I'm not picking it. I'm not picking anymore. God. So she didn't say a word to me. She didn't say anything. So, but she told my dad. And my dad was a man, lots of wisdom, God knows. But a few words. And when he spoke, So anyway, she told my dad, she said, well, I'll tell you what they call me, little sis. Little sis says she ain't picking no more cotton. So my dad sent word back to me from my mother. Tell her she doesn't have to. But remember that first bail is her tuition.
a little subtle pressure, right? So it kind of kicked in a little bit.
So I got up and I got my sack and I went to the field.
And you were what? And you were in college,
I was going into my senior year.
senior year of college.
So when I got back to college, my husband played basketball at Savannah State. What they call them Chicago Five. They were awesome. Won all kind of, and he was very close. He was one of the top players. His name was William Tate, and we hung out together and all. So when I got back to school in September, Kate said, Gloria, what happened to you? You done turned black. Well, dark. I said, if you had picked as much cotton as I have, your skin, you would have a nice tan too.
How humbling is that?
So, that was, to me, that was the most, what do you think? We're going out here every day and I got to pay your tuition in September. Where do you think the money is coming from? It's coming, and that first bail that I sell will cover your tuition.
All while, and I'm so glad that you brought it up because all the while you were talking, I was like, because I know me as a child, my father used to try to get me to go out and help him and, fix the car. Someone to fix the plumbing. But I don't
want to do that. I don't want to do that.
And I didn't. I just didn't. They just
not realizing that that's a skill,
right,
that you can always use.
Not realizing.
And see that's what I don't understand about a lot of young people. That you, but they don't have, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to have, because farming is a business. I always wanted to have a business of my own.
I can tell by the way you're talking. I mean, you understood the business.
Yes. 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 Yes.
You understood.
Yes.
You
Yes.
knew what it was like to have a crop wiped out. In your mind, that means lack of money right there, because that's not just that. And again, I was like, did you have to? I mean, you knew as a child, I have to do this.
Yes. I mean, you didn't have any other choice. You just didn't, I was telling my son, before we were talking on the phone, and I was telling him that, you know how you think, I wished when you were a child, I wish I could have lived in the city so that I wouldn't have to work. I didn't understand how a lot of those people in the city were living. I was telling him that I play basketball. And I had an aunt, and my grandparents lived in the city. But anyway, I asked my mother if I could spend the night with one of my basketball, young lady played was on the basketball team with me, and my mother consented. Just as well, she didn't have to consent again, but anyway, she consented, and I spent the night. It was cold, and it was late when we came in because we had played school out of town, and it was late, and I spent the night with her. And because I'd never been to her house, and I almost froze to death because she lived in a tin house with
Yes.
kerosene or whatever stove. I was shocked. No, so I never asked again to spend the night.
Of course not. Of course not.
But I didn't understand. And as I said, most of those people had to come out to the farm. Daddy would go in and pick people up with their children because that's how they made money to buy clothes and food. So I just, a lot of things you just assume and you don't understand how blessed you are. I don't have any regrets for having grown up on the farm.
That was you're answering my question is that I was going to ask because it seemed like a tough life. I mean, it seemed hard, and me knowing you now and knowing your story, I was like, you were so driven. You were driven then. The way you speak, your eloquence, and just everything. You said something earlier about making sure that each student was, you were always around educators. Mm-hmm. You were always involved, mm-hmm. But there's something in you that just drove you to be the best that you could mm-hmm. be. And I see it almost every time we talk. We spend a little bit of time mm-hmm. talking, and I leave saying, like, what a woman. And now that we're doing this interview, I'm like, wow, so that's where that comes from. Mm-hmm. So that drive, that determination, your education to get the master's degree, to open your businesses, would you say that that's where that came from, that hard work, or is it just something?
I guess it's something, as I said, being around people, educators, growing up, with in my family, and if you want a better life, you got to work for it. It's work. When I had a full-time business, and I worked every day.
What was your business?
I did. I started out seasonally doing gift wrapping and never didn't know how to wrap a gift.
But you taught yourself how to do that.
Yes, I had a partner that knew how, and she taught me how. I didn't know how to. But she taught me, so we started out seasonally. Then I ended up full time. I negotiated contracts. I had to buy insurance, liability insurance, and to do, and yet I taught every day. I hired. Actually, I just planned to do it seasonally. My son was a freshman or sophomore in college. So I said that I would do it seasonally. We started out doing the Christmas holidays. So that when he comes home, he'll have a job. He'll work for me and he'll have a job. So I pay him. He makes a little money during the Christmas holidays before he goes back. And then I said, well, Marcia's going 7 years between he and my daughter. So Marcia's going off to college, she's going to need some extra, So I just continue, until she gets out of college. So they worked for me, and then I hired high school students at Southwest and hired a couple of twin cousins that was at Savannah State in college. So it gave them, my business gave them an opportunity to make money when they were home during the holidays or and then I expanded. I would do Mother's Day, Valentine's, Father's Day, and I just from the gift wrapping, I started doing flowers, roses, doing flowers, just flowers, doing that. Oh, you remember the beta fish thing? I did the beta fish thing. I did. Wow. Then Martha and I ended up in doing special events. Yeah, and no one had ever taught me anything about decorating anything. I just did it.
That's where Marcia gets that.
Yeah. I mean, she was what, 7 years old?
Okay. So even talking about the gift wrapping business. So you had a partner, you didn't know how to do it, but she taught you. And then that gift wrapping business enabled you to start other businesses or other services. Me being in sales and marketing, I know about having a relationship with a client. So that means that you have one business, which was gift wrapping, and that enabled you, but it was all about the client because you had such a good rapport with that client. It enabled you to open other avenues.
Expand on the gift wrapping.
Right.
Yes.
And you were able to create jobs, and it taught people, to interact with you, but it taught people to go out and earn it. And that's that old fashioned hard work and you said it yourself. You were like, if you want something, if you want to succeed out of life, then you have to work for it. Right.
Yes.
How would you say the change, that culture change, because you grew up working? Working is nothing new to you. But talk about how, like, in this day and age, because Marcia, I know her personally. She's a hustler. She's a go-getter. She's got her businesses with mortgages and real estate and things like that.
Yes.
So.
Yes, because I encouraged her and my son too, that you need to have, you need to do something for yourself.
They saw you.
Not just working.
Encourage them. They watched you. If you didn't say a word to them, they watched you.
And I guess if you don't have someone to encourage you, to teach you, how are you going to? You have to have role models.
Yes.
So if the role models are not there, then what happens to our young people? What happens to them? They think that everything comes easy, and it's not. It's not easy. You have to work at it. You ought not to want forever to depend on handouts, someone giving you something, what are you going to do for yourself?
And see, I see you impacting not only Andre and Marcia, but I see you impacting your students.
Oh, yes. I have my students. They come to me. I see them.
I can imagine. Go ahead.
You have on my a scarf on my head, and head rag on my head and shades on, trying to disguise when I go out. And they recognize me. I have a letter that I want to read later on at our next that I got from a young student. I found it about a month or so ago in my dresser drawer, but it brought tears to my eyes. What he said about me as a teacher.
Just paraphrase.
He said that you are, the way you talk to us, it just meant so much to him, And I said, wow, I didn't know that
I can see that.
I made that kind of impact.
Right.
And I have a student that I remember he was in a general level math class. And I said, you don't need to be here. You need to be in an advanced class. And every time I see him, he thanks. He said, you saw something in me that I didn't know I had in myself. But he was brilliant. And he's done well, exceptionally well, And the young ladies that I come in contact with, they want to dress like I dress, and I'm just a role model.
So we talked about those young ladies, and I can see that why those young ladies would want to emulate you. But we talked earlier, and you brought up a great point, because a lot of times now with the youth, especially the teens, especially the young men, well, if they've never seen a man, right, how would they know to emulate him? So when the young ladies would see you, regal, the way you dress, the way you speak, and they knew, I want to be like that. But if they never saw that, then who do they have to emulate? You and I talked about high tea. We talked about tea time and different things. I mean, how did you get into that? How did you learn that? Because Marcia went through that, almost like the finishing school type of thing.
Well, I've always been, I've always been interested in, how you dress, how you speak, how you walk, how you talk, how you act. Like my minister said that I would rather see a sermon than hear one.
Now, what does that mean to you?
So how I carry myself, how I live, what I do, how I interact with people, that's the people at the grocery store. And this was another thing that I told my students. They would say, oh, Mrs. Wright, you are mean. You're just, you're so. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I want you to understand when I counsel you or talk to you, or when I give you, sometimes I have to assign you detention or whatever. I have to call your parents, okay? But always remember, keep this in mind. I do not dislike you, the person. I dislike your behavior. There's a difference between the two. How you're acting, that's what I'm correcting, your behavior. But for you, I love you. I said, because you know what? One day, I am going to get old. And I might be downtown Atlanta, standing on the corner or waiting for the traffic light to change. And I need somebody to help me across the street. I don't want you to not help me because you're remembering that, I was mean to you. And I said, you know what? I might need a lawyer, and I might have to come to you to defend me. I might need a doctor, and I need to come to you so you can find out what's wrong with me. So my experience here with you, I don't know where I'm going to see you again and when I'm going to need you. So I can't mistreat you. I'm not going to mistreat you. I love you, but I dislike your behavior.
I think the difference between the way that you just explained that is that gap that we're missing in today's society with the children now.
Because the teachers don't have to listen. When I first started teaching, I could take, if the kids were, rambunctious or whatever doing, I could take 10 or 15 minutes out to teach them a civics lesson, to tell them how important it is to behave, the difference between right and wrong. But when I left the classroom, you could not deviate from that book.
That's a good point.
See, all of our lives, when I was in high school, in elementary school, the teachers would teach you proper behavior. Okay? How to live, life lessons, their experience. We could talk to the children about that. I could take 30 minutes if I wanted to do that. But now it's content and content only. You could be written up by an administrator if he walked by your door and you were not teaching from the time on task, nothing else. So that's where we went wrong.
I think you brought that up earlier when you said the teachers are held accountable and everybody has to be doing the same
Yes.
across the board.
Across the board.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And I feel for some of the young girls who don't get a chance to meet you,
Yeah.
or you who don't know, those
But what do you do? How do we correct it?
That's my.
How do we go back and how do we go back and correct that? I started a mentoring. I wrote the curriculum for my church to mentor young ladies.
Wow.
I mean, it was powerful. The curriculum was already there. It was already written by a lady who attended. What's the name of that minister out of California? Kind of heavy set, tall. But anyway, it was woman to woman mentoring. That's what this lady, Saddleback. It was a minister, Saddleback Church in California. It had come, Rick Warren.
Yes, Rick Warren.
The Purpose-Driven Church.
Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah,
right.
Life. Yeah. But she had written this curriculum, woman to woman mentoring,
Love it.
which was awesome. And I asked my minister's wife if we could do that, if we could stop mentoring. So she ordered the curriculum, and I didn't want to be the one. I just suggested it. I didn't want to be the one to organize it. So you're talking about Rick Warren's church, predominantly white. Was written for white women.
Right. Little different dynamic. Right.
So what I had to do was to take her material, critique it to fit the black church, the black women.
Love it.
It took me about 6 months or more because I was trying to get out of it. I was hedging. And so we had ordered the curriculum, and it was sitting over in the corner, and Mrs. Shepherd, she was over Board of Christian Education at our church. First black female in the metro area that had gotten a master's in Christian education. And that's a whole nother. You understand what I'm saying? It's because she was an educator too. Okay. So anyway, the Pastor Shepherd kept saying, Ivory, that material, we ordered that material, spent that money for the material, it's still sitting over there in the corner. So she said, Gloria, we got to do something. So I did that, to meet our needs. Wonderful. I had over 200 women to go through that program. It was profound. Young women, and we had to assess them. They had to, you just couldn't get anybody. I mean, that curriculum was just out of this world. And it meant so much to those young, I think we started at age 20 and above. Because they were going through, people go through all kinds of issues. And we had a new minister come, and then he brought in all his new people. Didn't have a clue. They dropped the program, dropped the mentoring. We had an offspring from that. We had written up a mentoring program for the youth. Was getting ready to launch the program, everything, and we based that on what's the name of that program? It'll come to me in a few minutes. We use his Rites of Passage. You've heard of Rites of Passage? So the curriculum that we had put together was based on Rites of Passage because we had to critique it because it didn't fit. Getting ready to launch it for the young men and the young women. And we changed our the youth minister changed. Got a new minister. They never looked at that material. And then the pastor never pushed it. So yet he would get up in the pulpit and talk about mentoring, being a mentor. But you just can't go out there and become a mentor and you don't know nothing about being a mentor. I was a mentor teacher. I was one of the first mentor teachers that mentored people who were coming from the business world who wanted to get a degree in education. So I was a mentor, teacher. So I'd seen it, done it, know how important it is to have a mentor, But a lot of people don't see that. They don't understand who's going to mentor them. And then Marcia went through Jack and Jill. Are you familiar with Jack and Jill?
Yes.
Okay. I was a charter member.
See.
The Stone Mountain chapter.
That makes sense.
Of Jack and Jill. So they had to have experience educationally. They had to volunteer. So that helped to develop them. I taught them the etiquette classes, So all of that was a part of Marcia's upbringing.
Now it all.
And a lot of the other young ladies who were in that, who was in Jack and Jill, which is a very select. Mm-hmm. In fact, we had a knockdown drag out with the Atlanta chapter. Atlanta did not want us to develop a chapter in DeKalb County, because of that select, But no one could get in. They weren't letting anyone else in.
But we're not going to let you do it.
But we're not going to let y'all. So why would you want to do that? Why do you want to be selfish? They had everything sold up all the way to Augusta.
Really?
Yes. So we organized a Stone Mountain chapter of Jack and Jill, which is an excellent program to help develop young people. And Marcia still has a network from, because she started she was in 10th grade, I believe, when we, but we start in that first grade. So so how do you, I mean, there's a need out there outside of the school. You can't do it in the school. So what are you going to do outside of the school to help get our children back on the right path? Because they are. I mean, when you just walk around and see the behavior, they're just off the chain.
And they don't know.
And they really don't know, because no one is going to teach them in the school. They don't have time to do that. And then the church is so busy with bling bling and all this other stuff. You're not a preacher, are you? So how do we do it? There is a need for it. How do we get these parents who don't know how to be parents? How do you bring them in? How do you change their mindset about who they are and what they should be doing? I like Marcia tells me, said, Mama, I talked to some of the young ladies that's my age and a little younger, and some of the things that their behaviors and the things that they talk about, and in relationships to their husbands, and and all of this, so in divorce and all of that. I'm telling you, I ain't never want to be without my husband. I don't want to pay all the bills and do.
You want your husband, right?
I wanted my husband. I never wanted to be single. I'm keeping it real. Because it's hard out there. You got to take out the trash. You got to see about your car. You got to who want to do that? And then you got 3 or 4 crumb snatchers too that you know what I mean? You try to get that relationship together. And I know it's nothing against. If you can't make it, you can't make it.
I understand.
But there is no perfect.
I love the way when Ms. Wright, you were talking about your husband. You want to open your business. You have a husband. You're married at the time. We're talking about a woman who has a master's degree, and you saw the need for your husband. And that's a lot of times. I think in this day and age, you have a lot of independent women who they don't. With society, a lot of times women won't identify with having a husband. Or they feel like if they're married, they cannot do this or they can't do certain things. But you said you wanted your husband, right?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something else about that. You better go ahead. So he just counted the money.
Is that where your business was, in the mall?
It started out at South DeKalb Mall. I was one of the first vendors.
At South DeKalb Mall?
Yeah.
That's how you were doing the gift.
In 1982, early on. Yeah.
Y'all ain't gonna let me do this, but I'm gonna tell her, good for you. What do you mean? I want you to come in?
Well, the mall management said that I would be competition for J.C. Penney's and Macy's. Yeah,
right. That's true.
Yes. Out at North Lake, I just walked into a new everything. I just paid her
Turnkey.
I didn't have to buy a thing.
You just walk right.
I just walked right into the business.
Amazing. Now that makes more sense to me about the gift rush. I thought you were doing it from home or.
No, I was in passed by me.
Yes, ma'am. Extraordinary.
And then I went to North. As I said, I bought the lady's business at North Lake. She was going. I don't know how I found out about it. I don't know whether it was. I can't remember. But she was selling her business
You even open your mouth, people assess you. My mother taught me that too. So there's so many things that are passed down.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was amazing because I just met Andre today, and just that brief talk that we had. Now, how does that feel? Him going through in education.
Then he came to me and he said, Mama, I think I want to teach. I said, if that's what you want to do it. So he had a degree in business administration. And so he had to go back to school to get his certification at a young family. And he went to school. So he actually started out substituting. So the little kindergartners were telling him what to do. You know, that it's time for us to take a nap, got to pull out your cot, got to lay, whatever. So he laid down and took a nap with the little kindergarten. So the principal came by and said, Mr. Wright, what you doing? Before going to substitute. And he got his certification. They hired him. He got it in middle grades, which is what I got mine in, middle grades. But he concentrated in social studies. Okay, he taught for 3 years. Assistant principal, when he's done it from the ground up.
Yes.
From elementary, from kindergarten, all the way up.
Love it. Love it.
So he doesn't have any regrets. He's
a woman. Look at her children. So I know Marcia. I've just met Andre, so much respect to you.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much for allowing Adonis Finest to come in and...
To Mrs. Wright, I appreciate all that you have done for me in my 8th grade year. I wish that you could continue to help me through the years that I'm here, but I understand that I must give others a chance to receive help as well as accept it. Mrs. Wright, when I say to me, and really you didn't tell me much, when those times when you talked to us and lectured to us, that made a change. Thank you, and may God bless you throughout your years and days that is to come.
This episode of Adonis Finest is sponsored by Water for Life. And this is how I know you, right, Miss Wright?
Yes.
How do you like Water for Life?
I can't do without it. I love it.
You made an interesting testimonial for me, and you talked about life before Water for Life and life afterwards. What was it like? Or what does Water for Life do for you?
Well, I can tell the difference when I don't drink it. There's some.
Well, thank you so much for being a client of Water for Life and also being a dear friend.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Water for Life from Adonis International.
Sure you know our names. Adonis Finest, the podcast, oh so fly. We stay on our grind, aiming high like diamonds. We shine, inspiring the master, motivation and elevation. Breaking down all classes, teaching reaching. We can show you never fall with a helping hand. We rise from the crawl, from the bottom to the top. Wanna be stopped. Say no to doubt, say no to fear. Pushing boundaries, making it clear. You